It's the ultimate betrayal. Prince William's heartbreak today over 3 sickening new revelations, including a tell-all book on his mother, Princess Diana, by his own uncle Earl Spencer. Something that will destroy William, infuriate William. Do not be deluded to believe that Harry and Meghan do not have a whole year to slowly but surely commercialize the 30th anniversary of the death of Princess Diana. Yes, it's gross and grim, but this couple are increasingly desperate and they need money. And where is the money going to come from? We know it's from a likely Netflix documentary. I believe it will end up on Netflix, being filmed at the Althorpe estate. We've got this breaking bombshell news, the on-the-record statement from Earl Spencer that for the first time at 62 years old, he is writing this tell-all book on Princess Diana. He says it's to set the record straight once and for all ahead of the 30th anniversary of her death.
6 weeks. Just 6 weeks, that's all the time it took for everything to shift in a way no one could have predicted. 6 weeks after Harry and Meghan quietly stepped through the doors of Althorpe, the ancestral home that had been guarded so fiercely for decades. This is no ordinary place. Althorpe is the fortress where one man spent nearly 3 decades protecting the legacy of Diana, Princess of Wales. The man who, for 29 years, held the gates shut so tightly the world could only ever glimpse shadows of the truth. Now, after all that, Diana's story has found a new voice, and it's coming straight from a source few imagined would ever speak out. A book titled With the Weight of Royal History, 28 pounds, 384 pages, set to launch on September 22nd. And here's the kicker, it's not just any release. Charles Spencer, Diana's younger brother, the guardian of her secrets, the man who has fiercely guarded every corner of this story, is narrating the audiobook himself. This isn't just another royal biography adding to the endless stack lining bookstore shelves. This is a seismic event, echoing through the royal corridors and the court of public opinion alike.
I'd be interested to know, there's always the story from Paul Burrell, Diana's valet, that Charles Spencer didn't want Diana in her lifetime, but was quite happy to charge £20 a time for people to come and visit her grave, which he thought was pretty ironic, to say the least.
Earl Spencer was actually horrified about that picture that we saw posted by Meghan on Instagram showing Harry and Archie and Lily going to Diana's gravesite for the first time, even carrying flowers at Althorpe.
If you think this is just another book deal, you're missing the bigger picture. For years, Charles Spencer has lived as the ultimate gatekeeper. He refused to let even Netflix, yes, the streaming giant with the means to captivate billions, plant a camera inside his house. The Crown itself reportedly wanted access to Althorpe to bring its story to light in a way that might weave into their narrative, but Charles refused. That tells you how fiercely protective he's been of his family's story. This is also the man who quietly shuttered a major exhibition about Diana, his own sister, and never let it reopen. He chose to bury her on a remote island in the middle of a lake, far from the curious crowds and the prying eyes, making it a place of quiet reverence, not spectacle. And his protection hasn't stopped there. He's taken 3 different newspapers to court, each time defending his family's honor, forcing retractions, apologies, and setting clear lines no one dared to cross. But now, everything is transformed. This week, Charles Spencer announced a tell-all memoir, one that no journalist had to dig for. It was handed to the world straight from him. And the path to this moment?
Duchess of Sussex also revealed that she had suicidal thoughts and had struggled with her mental health after joining the royal family. Well, I'm going to translate that piece of bullshit too. She made up. She spun a story. And by the way, what the Daily Telegraph seems to be forgetting is that Meghan and Harry also accused all of us, Brits who voted for Brexit like me, as being racist scumbags.
He's not always, I suspect, as financially rich as his status would suggest. He had to sell some land the other day. I assume not because of the reasons he gave, which were that it was becoming dirty and people were dumping stuff on the land. We need money. One always thinks that aristocrats in huge houses are very rich. The cost of maintenance is always enormous. There's an old story about the aristocrats hitting the bad times because it's hard to make a living. So I think he's done it for money and for fame. But also, as I say, in Charles's lifetime, he wants to point out the misery of his sister's marriage and everything else. And I think that's what he's going to do.
Surprisingly clear, Harry and Meghan, with their children in tow, spent a week in July at Charles's home, a decision that stunned royal watchers and insiders alike. Then, on July 23rd, Meghan quietly shared a photo on Instagram, one that seemed to signal something significant, a moment of unity, a family bridge being rebuilt. Fast forward 5 weeks and 3 days, and the brother who had never sold a word about his sister, who fought tooth and nail to keep her memory unblemished and private, now offers a sprawling 400-page deep dive into their world, translated into a dozen languages, ready to be heard and read worldwide. It's a story no one expected, a revelation that shines a new light on a family and a history that many thought was forever locked away. The timing of it all was staggering, almost impossible to believe. Mike Graham didn't just hint at what was lurking beneath the surface, he said it out loud, right there on his own show. The very phrase he used was striking. He called him a scumbag. That was Mike Graham's choice of words, uncensored and unapologetic. And what's even more telling is that he said it with zero hesitation, completely unflinching.
There was a story yesterday, or a couple of days ago, that Earl Spencer, the late Diana's brother, who of course owns and runs Althorpe, is about to write a book, or is about to publish a book, saying his side of the story from the fallout of Diana's death and everything that happened. Somebody said, I think it was Peter Blexley, maybe they're heading to Althorpe. Maybe that's an olive branch. We have no idea. But I mean, this is an extraordinary revelation, and for me it comes down to one thing. I got the distinct impression they hated this country, thought this country was racist, thought this country was not the sort of place they wanted to bring up. They didn't want to be part of the royal family. They found it too suffocating. And now, because they're on their backsides, they're crawling back to us. 2 more economic migrants looking for a way out.
I'm going to call this Project Diana. We've seen Harry and Meghan, especially Meghan, using Archie and Lily now as part of the Sussex brand. But Diana's next. There's going to be a Diana documentary. Netflix will make it. They'll pay Harry and Meghan a lot of money for it. William will be furious because it will be made without his permission. It's his mother's too.
That raw, unguarded honesty perfectly captured what countless viewers across Britain were thinking. Many of them had been quietly typing similar thoughts into comment sections that very morning. And then, with the precision of a well-aimed arrow, Mike landed the real punch. How could this man possibly criticize the royal family for failing to care for their children when he himself had been so unwilling to take responsibility? It was a burn impossible to ignore. He simply couldn't care less. And that was the point. Meanwhile, on a different channel, the tone was more subtle but no less revealing. Kevin O'Sullivan approached Angela Levin with careful restraint, testing the waters gently. He asked a question loaded with implications. Didn't this man conveniently leave out the fact that he stood to earn a substantial fortune from all of this, didn't he? Angela Levin, a seasoned journalist with deep insight into the inner workings of that family, didn't hold back. Her response was sharp and emphatic, twice over. Yes, the man in question was already wealthy, and his upcoming earnings were only going to inflate that fortune even more. It was a gold rush disguised as a personal crusade. Look back over the past 29 years. A film crew turned away at the door.
We know that he really does not like King Charles at all. Certainly he doesn't seem to be fond of Prince William. He is fond of Prince Harry. He's angry with the BBC because of the Panorama interview. So there's a lot of stuff there that people will be very keen to hear about. It seems to be being kept under wraps somewhat because it's coming out in about 3 weeks' time. So clearly they didn't want this to get out too far in advance.
The BBC reporter Martin Bashir lied to both Charles and to Diana to get that astonishing astonishing interview, which produced the memorable phrase that there are three in this marriage. And of course, Diana, according to Charles Spencer, and I'm sure he's right, became intensely paranoid because of the revelations that Bashir had fabricated, that she was under constant surveillance and couldn't trust anybody, especially her own staff.
A major exhibition abruptly shut down, 3 newspapers forced into public apologies, and a national broadcaster left reeling and humbled. Every single one of these events circles back to the same pattern, this man continually telling others that they were not allowed to profit from her story. No exceptions. So where was the turning point? What shifted? Here is the hard, unvarnished timeline, no exaggerations, no added drama, only the facts laid out by date and in the precise order they unfolded. On July 10th and 11th, one of the places closest to the public, the third closest residence in question, was involved in something unusual. Remember, this stately home only opens its gates for a brief 2 months each year, making it a rare and cherished experience for visitors. But for those 2 specific days, the gates were closed tight, abruptly barring access and shattering expectations. The questions that raise multiply. What was really going on behind those locked gates? Inside the estate, Harry, Meghan, and their 2 children were quietly gathered, right there on the family grounds, standing by that deeply significant grave. This wasn't just any moment. It was personal, intimate, and charged with meaning. Then,
now, I'm just going to lay my cards on the table here. I'm not a big fan of Earl Spencer. I think he has been a malign influence in a lot of ways in recent years. He has aligned himself very much with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. To me, and this is an opinion, and you are more than welcome to disagree, this is a money play, and it is also a play to make it much easier for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle next year to cash in even further on Princess Diana's memory, because they're like, well, look, Earl Spencer's done this book. It's just our chance now to do the same thing.
On the 23rd of July, the grave was suddenly unveiled to the public in an Instagram post, a holiday snapshot that caught the eyes of millions. If you've seen that video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was shared once, in a way that sparked widespread attention and debate. I won't replay it here, the memory alone tells enough. But here's where things get truly intriguing and a bit mysterious. A few days after the backlash from that post started ripple through social media and news outlets, Kat Jarman, an archaeologist married to Charles Spencer, Harry's uncle, in a ceremony in Arizona just a few months prior, shared her own images on Instagram. These were photos from a different Spencer family gravesite. At that moment, it seemed like a quiet gesture of support for Harry and Meghan, a subtle signal of loyalty from the family's inner circle rather than a showdown. It felt like the family was closing ranks, protecting their own rather than turning on them. Then, on the 18th of August, something even bigger exploded onto the scene, the announcement of the book.
Tom Sykes of The Royalist writing the historic book is due to be published next month by Penguin Michael Joseph under the title Swan Song, Diana, My Sister. He says it will be a deeply personal account of his relationship with his sibling. In other words, he's doing a spare. You know, he's telling it all.
I don't buy it either, Dan. I just find this to be absolutely cringe, especially even the title of the book, Swan Song. It's just absolutely, I think, sort of despicable that he is once again leveraging the memory of his sister in order to make money. I just don't think there's any way to look at it. To be a bit cynical as well, he does have 3 ex-wives, so maybe this is part of why he needs another book to put out there as well. And it's just a ploy to capture the memory of his sister for himself.
That date, just 5 weeks and 3 days after Kat's post, felt like a carefully timed move. What's fascinating is a detail hidden deep in the Australian media coverage, something the British reporters almost completely missed. There seemed to be a deliberate attempt to keep the book's exact release under wraps. The Sunrise team, a major Australian morning show, even mentioned that they were told not to let the news spread too early. Now, pause and think about what this means. This was the biggest royal memoir to come out in years, and the publisher handed it a ridiculously short marketing fuse, just 5 weeks from announcement to launch. Penguin, a powerhouse in publishing, never casually sets these kind of deadlines. Someone made a very clear choice to drop this bombshell with almost no warning and no time for the palace or public to prepare. The timing was too perfect to be accidental. It was strategic, precise, and calculated. And here's another layer. The book announcement wasn't even Harry's first step back into the limelight. Nearly 9 months earlier, he had sat down, already starting the long, deliberate process that would lead to this moment. Imagine being part of a story that only now, piece by piece, is beginning to unravel a story tied to a book about Diana that was released just last November.
With the 30th anniversary of Diana's tragic death on the skyline, I've been inundated yet again with requests for interviews about my sister. This has convinced me to write down my own thoughts and memories once and for all, rather than having the discomfort of again reading the opinions of others, many of which are based on untruths that have become accepted over time. So what you see there is Earl Spencer is trying to make a moral argument as to why he's doing this. Now, I haven't seen the book. Of course, I haven't read the manuscript. I will read the manuscript. We will report on it. But I hope Earl Spencer is honest about some of the terrible fallouts he had with Diana in the final years of her life, because she was not happy with a lot of the decisions that he made.
Not only he has done, but Harry has done as well. Just leveraging Diana again and again and again and again, just to hope that the money rolls in. And it does, because again, they are getting their dividends based on her and her legacy, not them of themselves. And that Harry and Earl Spencer align here, again, I think shows where Harry's loyalties really lie, and how Earl Spencer, you could say, is encouraging some of this kind of mining of Diana's memory.
Contrary to what some believe, the wall of silence didn't magically come crashing down in August. In reality, this barrier has been slowly eroding throughout the entire year. But July, that's when the gates finally swung wide open. I wish I could tell you exactly what was whispered behind closed doors in that house, but truthfully, no one outside that room knows for sure, and frankly, no one is pretending otherwise. What's striking is how the comment sections below those stories reveal a lot about public sentiment. And the reactions, they're far from subtle, they're sharp, biting, and full of suspicion. Picture this. Harry, Meghan, and Charles Spencer all meeting quietly at Althorpe. The speculation is wild, and the whispers in the digital shadows aren't kind. One comment summed up the bitterness perfectly, calling it absolutely sickening. Here's what's fueling this narrative. The timeline fits too neatly to ignore. For nearly 3 decades, the gates of that private island remained firmly closed, guarding secrets and keeping others at bay. But in July, something changed. The gates were locked behind everyone else, allowing only Harry and Meghan exclusive access. It's a powerful image, the once forbidden grounds suddenly open, but only for a select few.
This is a book I've been invited to write repeatedly since the actual day of Diana's funeral. Now is the time for me to finally put it down on the page. Now, my question is why? Why now? Why? The 30th anniversary means you're going to make more money? Why now?
There's no doubt he's going to earn millions of dollars from this book and what follows. And he could have been very discreet, as most people would. But on the other hand, he sees that King Charles wrote his memoirs and Harry's written his, and many other members of the royal family. Their constant outpourings. These books are fascinating for people to read because it's, after all, lifting the lid on a secret world and always damaging that world. So why not add to it?
What's truly fascinating, and maybe a little chilling, is that the motive behind this move isn't cloaked in mystery. Charles Spencer spelled it out in his own words, right at the very beginning of his announcement. With the somber shadow of the 30th anniversary of Diana's tragic death looming, he said, "I've been inundated yet again with requests. Requests for interviews about my sister." Pause on that line for a moment. It's not about correcting the record. It's not framed as protecting her legacy. No, the anniversary itself was the headline, almost the reason given for his choice. And, as you read further into his statement, subtle hints slip through, revealing more about his true intentions, letting his motivations peek out twice over. He calls it discomfort, the uneasy feeling of once again facing the opinions and judgments of others, feeling exposed under a spotlight he never asked for. Since the day of Diana's funeral, he's been invited, urged even, to write this book. The invitation didn't come recently, no. It has been coming at him relentlessly for nearly 3 decades. Yet, despite having every chance to write it any time over those 29 years, he only chose now. Why?
I think for William that is heartbreaking, given he did have this deal explicitly with Prince Harry, but obviously it spread to Earl Spencer that after the 20th anniversary there wasn't going to be any of this big family cashing in on anniversaries of Diana's death, because it's tacky and it doesn't let her rest in peace.
Harry could be collaborating with his uncle, because I don't trust these two individuals. You know, I actually feel a lot of sympathy for Prince William. I think that this will anger, frustrate, upset William, but I think that Harry will be completely fine with it.
Because this precise moment, this year, is when the book holds its greatest value. He openly admitted this himself, so there's no guessing here, he said it plainly. Now let's talk about the numbers, because they don't lie. This isn't just a simple paperback, it's a 384-page deep dive, priced at £28, hitting shelves in 12 different languages, complete with a dedicated American edition. And here's a twist, he narrates the audiobook himself. The same man who once slammed doors on Netflix, refusing them access to even a hallway, is now lending that very platform his own voice. A remarkable shift, wouldn't you say? But here's what's really surprising, and how did this slip under the radar? That £28 hardcover was already being sold at half price, just £14 at a major high street bookstore, and this was 5 whole weeks before a single person on the planet had actually cracked it open or read a word. Think about that for a second. A book discounted deeply before anyone has seen any content, as if the price movement is another play altogether. This next part isn't just about the business, it's about the man's history. Because here's what turns this from a casual curiosity into a deeper, more unsettling picture.
Well, I'm absolutely sure that Prince William didn't hear anything. I think the relationship between Charles Spencer and William is pretty non-existent. Whether Harry heard about it when he visited with Meghan is, well, we don't know. But he wouldn't have asked, Charles Spencer would not have asked Harry or William for their permission, and he wouldn't have bothered to consult them out of politeness either. I mean, he's his own man. So I don't think that he would have considered them, or for that matter, considered the king.
Charles, not the Charles King, but the other Charles, works very well with Harry and wants to do things with him, and they will be a most terrible twosome, because he's actually not a very nice man. He's had sort of 4 divorces with his wives, and I know that he wasn't very kind to Diana. You know, when she was feeling dreadful and she asked for a place to live, he wouldn't do it for her. So, and he's also said, in talking about his book, that he has doesn't care if it's not Diana. He's going to talk as if Diana is talking.
When the BBC faced the fallout from the Bashir scandal, they paid an astonishing £1.42 million into 7 of Diana's charities, effectively trying to make amends. This man himself made sure his own exhibit raised more than £1 million, £1.2 million to support her memorial fund. He's not a stranger to turning his sister's memory into charitable fundraising success. He knows the ropes inside and out. The difference here? For this book, there's no promise, no announcement, no hint that a single penny will be donated to a cause, to a charity, or to anyone connected with her legacy. Mike's history shows he's well aware of how these things work, but this time, nothing. Just the book, the sales, and the silence. Let's talk about Graham No Frills, no sugarcoating. Picture this. He just comes right out and says, "Yeah, I finally decided to cash in on my own sister."
And I do strongly believe we will probably see a Diana documentary by Harry and Meghan next year. It's the only thing of theirs that they can sell. And so I think that is definitely what they'll be doing. And it's disturbing, but it's unfortunately not a surprise that this is a route that Earl Spencer would decide to go down. And I think he's definitely opened the door for Harry to follow suit.
My fear is that this is all going to end up material in another documentary or another book, because that's what they need. They have run out of material. They have run out of gripes. They have run out of accusations. There isn't much more left for them to say. So is this going to be what happens next?
Got to make a bit of money somehow, right? Now, here's the kicker that really stings. This is the same man who has gone to court not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, suing newspapers that dared to even hint that he mistreated his sister. 3 lawsuits over suggestions of bad behavior. Yet, without hesitation, He slaps her face right on a jacket, cover an obvious symbol of her worth, and then, as if that wasn't enough, he cuts her value in half with a 50% discount, all before the book has even hit the shelves. It's almost surreal. This isn't just a story. It's a wild, unbelievable chain of events that seems too bizarre even for fiction. And guess what? Someone has to take responsibility for this chaos. Spoiler alert, it won't be him. On the morning this scandal dropped, the headlines screamed ultimate betrayal and William's heartbreak, painting a picture of crushing disappointment. But there was more, 3 separate blows crumbling down on this man in just one single day.
This book, I think, might put a bit of a hole in Harry and Meghan's plans to make a movie, a film, a documentary about Princess Diana, about Harry's mother. I mean, they've had a march stolen on them with this book, haven't they?
I think that's very interesting, actually, because this will be coming out in September, and Harry and Meghan's doing it. Won't come out until for a year. Actually, on the anniversary of her 30th year of how old she would have been.
Yeah. Are there parallels to be drawn between Diana's unhappiness within the royal family and Meghan's subsequent unhappiness within that same family?
No, good question, but not at all. Diana wouldn't say one bad word about the Queen or anything that they did. She thought it was wonderful and she believed in the royal family. Meghan doesn't. Yeah. Meghan always wanted to be in charge and to know what she was going to do. So it's very different. I think Meghan got married so that she could learn a lot of things and make money, but I think Diana was very happy up to a certain point.
First, a bombshell revelation. A tell-all book about his own mother, written by none other than his uncle. Now, you would assume such intimate news would have been shared with William first, right? Wrong. Instead, the announcement flew straight to every major news outlet you could imagine. Reuters, The Guardian, The Telegraph, The Independent, ITV, all receiving the same story, the same quotes, bombarding the public simultaneously. What you saw was less a private family moment and more a meticulously coordinated media event disguised as a shocking new revelation. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Australian television wasn't holding back like anyone else dared to. They openly stated what many here only whispered about. William harbors a deep dislike for King Charles. And it doesn't stop there. They made it clear he doesn't exactly have warm feelings for Prince William either. Interestingly, the one family member he seems to have genuine affection for is Prince Harry. But here's the fascinating part. This isn't mere speculation or gossip. The claim about his fondness for Harry is backed by documented evidence. It's a tangled web of family dynamics, public betrayals, and media circus, all tangled together in a way that keeps the world watching with bated breath.
They are horrendous, actually, and unfortunately they've come with a terrible attitude because they're going to make things that are easy for them, see the king now and then twist it. Meghan's going to make her book out of it, and Harry is going to make money out of it. It's just too awful. Meghan's wanted to make her money for a long time, so she'll use everything there. She'll have many more things to take care of.
The Queen was criticised, Charles was criticised, everybody was criticised. It was a tragedy first and foremost, a tragedy. But the old man always told me that there was right and wrong on all sides, and one just has to learn from it and move forward. She was an incredible woman who had her flaws, like we all do. You know, people will now look and say the boys have segregated and had all their troubles because of what happened to their mother. But you know what? You just have to get on with life.
Imagine the sheer courage it takes to stand up against some of the most powerful media giants in the world, not just once, but twice. In June 2023, Charles Spencer, the brother of Princess Diana, made headlines by openly supporting Prince Harry amid his intense legal battle against the notorious newsgroup newspapers over phone hacking. Then, barely a year later, in January 2025, Spencer again publicly lent his voice, backing Harry through the complex settlement with the Sun newspaper. This wasn't just a casual remark or a fleeting support. Charles emphasized just how monumental Harry's fight was. He said it took an extraordinary amount of bravery to take on opponents as formidable as news group newspapers, a true David versus Goliath scenario. More importantly, Charles pointed out the profound significance of Harry gaining a formal apology for the treatment of his mother, Diana. According to him, she would have been deeply moved by that gesture and, naturally, incredibly proud of her son for standing firm. This wasn't some vague, anonymous support hidden behind closed doors. Charles made it clear, in no uncertain terms, that the family line and the truth about Harry's actions aren't up for debate. He did so publicly and under his own name over and over again for years. Now, let's break it down in the simplest way possible, because the contrast here is almost painfully sharp if you stop to think about it. There are two brothers in this story. One brother chose to tell their mother's story in a certain way, writing a book that reached 43 countries worldwide, monetizing her image and legacy.
Charles Spencer will tell the, quote, truth about the marriage and about his sister's misery during the marriage. And we've got to remember that at her funeral, Charles Spencer delivered from the pulpit the most eviscerating damnation of the Windsors and said he was going to care for the brothers, for her sons, because their grandparents were incapable of doing it. And I think, there's every reason for King Charles to fear Charles Spencer. There's no love lost between the two men.
That scandal was, if you look at the entire map, Diana potentially died because she believed somebody that lied to her and told her that your security guards and the closest people around you are spying on you. So she dismissed a lot of important people around her that would have protected her in Paris that night. And if you're Charles Spencer and you're the one that made this introduction because you were lied to too, you're right, that could be very traumatizing, and you might want to set the record straight.
The same brother also produced a high-profile Netflix series about their mother, sitting down in exclusive interviews on massive platforms like Oprah, and has a documentary lined up for a significant anniversary. The extent to which his involvement shapes the public narrative is enormous, and every move is meticulously crafted and far-reaching. Then, you have the other brother, Prince Harry, the one who's never once sold his mother's story, never shared it for profit in a single word or a paid interview to shape a public image. For nearly 3 decades, despite being connected to the most photographed woman in history, he has never put a price tag on her memory. He has kept that sacred and private, choosing silence or perhaps respect over exploitation. And here's the twist that's so intriguingly ironic. The silent brother's uncle, Charles Spencer, who should be thought of as an ally, publicly crossed over to side with the brother who has commercialized their mother's legacy. This reality, this division between the two brothers and the uncle's public stance, has created a tension that audiences everywhere can feel deep down. It forces us to question who really has the deepest connection and respect for Diana's memory, and who truly fights for her honor not with words or shows, but with silent strength.
I have to say, at the time of Diana's death, they weren't bosom buddies, she and her brother. In '93, she was undergoing tremendous stress from the paparazzi and from the media in general. Diana only had one home, Kensington Palace. She didn't have a bolt hole, and she asked her brother if she can use the garden cottage on the Althorpe estate as a bolt hole to escape. And initially he agreed, and then he reneged on that and turned her down, and she was bitter about that. So, the brotherly love wasn't there. He was just concerned for himself. He was citing a question of security and media intrusion. If he really cared for his sister, he would have found a way to accommodate her with a bolt hole on the Althorpe estate, but he didn't.
But I do think, if this is an honest book, I do think what Diana felt at that time is terribly important in that marriage. My only question is, did Diana confide in her younger brother? I just wonder whether that really did happen, that she told him about her misery and all the rest.
Before the official experts could weigh in, someone beat them to the punch, and their insight quickly became the top comment of the week, racking up nearly 1,000 likes. And interestingly enough, it wasn't even about Prince Harry himself. Instead, it centered on an opinion about good old Charlie, the Queen's brother, known affectionately as Old Charlie Boy. The comment boldly claimed that as long as Charlie remains at the helm, the future of the monarchy is uncertain for Prince William and even young Prince George. The implication that there might be little left of the traditional royal institution once Charlie's generation steps aside. It wasn't just a grievance over a book or some family drama simmering underneath, it was a deeper frustration. People weren't mad about what was said. They were upset that nobody in the family seemed willing to back the one who wisely kept quiet amid all the chaos. And that brings us to the critical question everyone's been sidestepping, the question of timing and why this book's release feels so deliberate. Recently, a sharp broadcaster put this exact question to a well-known royal biographer during an interview, probing why this particular moment was chosen. Despite this pointed inquiry, the mystery remains unsolved, hanging in the air. What's clear is this: the book seems to unintentionally throw a wrench into Harry and Meghan's carefully laid plans. As Kevin O'Sullivan put it, this book might just dent their scheme to control the narrative about Princess Diana through their upcoming documentary. He pointed out that the royal couple might feel their story has been overshadowed, almost like a theft of their spotlight, because this book reveals so much, almost like their family secrets have been exposed in advance. Angela Levin, another respected royal commentator, didn't dispute this perspective. While she didn't reveal which documentary, she did confirm the timing of another project's release, adding to the sense that things are carefully orchestrated. Over the span of just a day and a half, 3 different experts across 3 separate programs all seem to come to the same conclusion. This new book sets the stage for the next chapter in the unfolding saga, laying groundwork that makes future projects easier to digest and even more impactful. And interestingly enough, the fans and critics on social media saw this pattern long before the media experts did. One comment, in particular, echoed this sentiment and drew over 300 likes. The idea that the author, presumably a member of the royal family, wanted to get his story out first before Harry and Meghan had the chance to present their version. To be fair, and I'll say this before anyone else does, the Sussex camp is navigating a complex and delicate situation, and the timing of such releases can be about much more than just telling a story. It's about shaping history, influencing perception, and carefully protecting legacies. The fate of the documentary isn't set in stone, yet far from it. Someone close to the partnership behind the project actually went to the independent newspaper and bluntly declared that much of the speculation just wasn't true. Now, you might be thinking, okay, if they say that, fine, let's take their word for it. But here's the twist. What's really been confirmed, what we now know for sure, paints an even tougher picture for them. That's the real bombshell this entire video has been quietly building towards, and it's about to come into full view. Angela Levin, a respected royal commentator, was asked a question live on air that cut straight to the heart of the matter. She was asked if Diana's suffering within the royal family mirrors Meghan's. Were they living through the same nightmare? After all, it's the same house, the same relentless press, the same cage, so could Meghan really be the new Diana? Angela didn't flinch or soften her answer. She didn't take the easy or polite route. She was direct, unfiltered, and unmistakably clear. According to Levin, Diana never spoke a single negative word about the Queen or the royal institution. They were her family, and she held on to her belief in their importance. Meghan, by contrast, doesn't share that loyalty. Angela said Meghan always wanted control. She wanted to be in charge. Then came the comment that struck a nerve and has echoed around the world ever since. Levin said, plainly and without hesitation, "I think Meghan got married so that she could learn a lot of things and make money." Those words were spoken on camera by Angela Levin herself, responding to a question Meghan has spent 6 years desperately trying to flip, reshape, and silence. Now fast forward to the book cover Penguin put out. It reads, "Beautiful, beloved, hunted." That single word, hunted, is the one Meghan has clung to throughout her story, the one she's repeated again and again, as if it explains everything. It's the narrative she's reached for, the emotional frame she's built around her experience. But after everything we've seen, those shining words on the jacket take on a weightier meaning and open a whole new chapter in this ongoing saga. From the moment she walked away, She became more than just a woman. She was labeled the hunted, chased relentlessly by the press, never given a moment of peace. For 6 long years, she struggled to reclaim that single word, to make it her own story rather than the one others forced upon her. Meanwhile, a man who barely knew her had that very label etched in gold, proudly displayed on the cover of a book about someone else's life. It's a strange, almost haunting irony, the narrative controlled not by her, but by those at a distance. Lady Colin Campbell, who has spoken about Meghan for many years, offers a line that lingers. Criticism rained down on everyone involved. The Queen faced scrutiny. Charles was judged harshly. Nearly every person connected to the story bore public blame at some point, but no matter the headlines or the public outcry, in the heart of it all, it remained a tragedy, a deeply human, painful story first and foremost. An older man once shared a thought that resonates through the chaos. There is often right and wrong on every side, and sometimes the only path forward is to learn from what's been lost and keep moving. She was remarkable, no doubt, but also flawed just like every one of us. When people talk about the boys, the sons caught in the storm, they say their struggles stem directly from what happened to their mother. It's an understandable narrative, easy to grasp. But amidst it all, the truth often comes down to simply this: you have to move on, find a way forward, no matter how painful the past. Did he manage to do that? Maybe, but in a larger sense, this book, honest and raw as it is, reminds us just how vital those feelings were to Diana at that time. Her anguish, her experience inside that marriage, that's beyond question. And it leads to one lingering, haunting question. Did Diana ever truly open up to her younger brother about all she was going through? Did she confide in him about her sorrow, her loneliness? It's hard to know for sure, but it's a mystery that adds one more layer of depth to a story that has kept us captivated for decades. In the end, this isn't just one woman's story, it's a complex tapestry of love, pain, family, and the relentless search for peace amid public scrutiny. It challenges us to look beyond the headlines, to understand the real people living through the narrative we think we know so well. And maybe, just maybe, it reminds us how essential empathy and understanding are in unpacking any story. If this journey into the heart of history moved you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more compelling stories, and share it with friends who love a good true story. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think happened behind the scenes? Your voice matters, and I'd love to hear what you believe. Stay tuned for more captivating tales right here.